It has been 1 month since Nintendo has launched their newest system, Nintendo Switch 2, and there's already been so many opinions in the system, because of course there has. There are already so many videos in the system, how it feels to use, games, pricing, and of course, tons of discourse. However, that's not quite what this video is going to be about. This video will be a bit of a mix. It's going to be a bit of a review, a bit of an analysis, a bit of my experience with the system over the past 2 weeks, and what I think Nintendo's end goal for the system will be, and how it's going to differ a bit from the original Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch 2 arrives 8 years after the original Nintendo Switch came to the market. For context, you really have to remember, when the original Nintendo Switch launched all the way back in early 2017, the idea of a device that could play high-budget games in the form of a cheap tablet was basically unheard of to the general public. The system was very revolutionary in that aspect. But 8 years is a very long time, and the broader gaming landscape has shifted significantly since 2017. Now in the present year of 2025, there are so many devices that have taken inspiration from Nintendo Switch. There's the Steam Deck, there's the ROG Ally, there's Lenovo Legion Go, and these are just some of the various handhelds that have entered the market since 2017, in no small part due to Nintendo Switch's massive commercial success. Since the Nintendo Switch has launched, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S have also entered the market, bringing us through generational improvements to console gaming. These systems are absolutely fantastic and are technical marvels in their own right, but I think Microsoft and Sony have really hurt these systems' potential, and they could be so goddamn much more than what they ended up being. Starting early in the PlayStation 5 era back in 2021, Sony established a department dedicated to porting their prestige PlayStation exclusives to PC. Games such as The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, Spider-Man 1 and 2, God of War, and Ragnarok, all going to PC roughly a year after launch. This, in all honesty, is a great thing, and it gives people who may not have a PlayStation 4 or 5 a chance to play these games, but it really asks the question of what makes the PS5 worth it in this current landscape. You just get a PC instead. Now, to be fair, PCs are extremely expensive these days, and you're only getting more expensive with the current economy. But this is also happening in Microsoft as well to a much greater extent, as the majority of their games are day and date with PC. Recent examples include games such as the absolutely really fun and fantastic game Dark Ages. I highly recommend you get that game. Along with console exclusivity being almost all but dead, we are now entering the era of greatly diminishing graphical fidelity and returns. Games that look really good now don't really look that much better than they do 10 years ago, and it's a lot harder for Sony and Microsoft to really impress me at this point. Ray tracing, I will admit, is quite interesting, and I really do like the way it looks. I think ray tracing looks pretty good in Doom and Dark Ages, and it really makes the way enemies look really pop off. And ray tracing on some games, admittedly, like Mario 64, I have tried out the Mario 64 mod pack with like the one that makes it like, what is it, Render 64? Lets things look way better there, and so I do like ray tracing as an art form. It lets games look better in a way they wouldn't be able to otherwise. But other than that, it also greatly hurts game performance. Like, I have not played a single game with ray tracing that does not really hurt my frame rate on PC. So, other than like the ray tracing and higher polygon count, I will always prefer higher performance in my games. So I don't really use ray tracing unless it's like absolutely necessary. In my opinion, the things that really impress me these days are more what studios and developers will do with the horsepower that they're given. I feel like some of the games that have really impressed me from a gameplay and mechanical standpoint over the last couple of years are, I can think of at least like 3 games, and I think that would be The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Astrobot, and then Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Tears of the Kingdom really impressed me with how I was able to make a whole sandbox, physics-based building system on a 8-year-old dying tablet. Astrobot very much pushed the PS5 to its limits with like all the features it could do, like the really cool simulation effects that it had. And Clair Obscur very much uses the PS5 and Unreal Engine 5 to make really jaw-dropping visual presentations and a gameplay system in an RPG that I hadn't really seen before. And that was also awesome. I really loved the way Clair Obscur felt to play. It was honestly very much a next generation feeling experience, despite being made at like 1/10 of like the headcount of like an actual big budget studio. So I really do value much more these days gameplay innovation and over graphical fidelity and how many polygons the character has. So that goes back to the point of this channel's debut video. Why do I find Nintendo Switch 2 to be so exciting in the first place? Well, to be blunt, it's mainly due to the fact that they fully believe that Nintendo will use the system to push modern game design and art direction to a whole new level. And that's just one aspect of this video. We'll be going over a lot in this video. 6 months ago, in mid-January, Nintendo revealed their next generation system after years of speculation. It was called, wait for it, Nintendo Switch 2. The reveal video featured a 1 minute to 2 minute clip of a system transforming into the successor's design, and it showed 10 seconds of a new Mario Kart. To be honest, I was honestly not really that excited in the first place, as it very much looked like it was more of the same. However, as time went on, I honestly got more and more excited for the system, as it seemed like based on the footage that they showed, that with the new Mario Kart game, that Nintendo will be using a new system to push game design to a whole new level. After the reveal, we got pretty much nothing until April of 2025, when Nintendo blew the lid off of what the actual fuck they were talking about with this new system. Of course, there was the market world whole debacle and pricing, yada yada yada, cost of living, groceries, whatever. I actually wanted to talk about the system for a while now, but due to how reactionary the internet is and all its bases are, I decided to wait until things died down. The system as a whole honestly reminds me of the Nintendo 3DS and how Nintendo positioned that system as a mere straight sequel with a major gimmick that most people wouldn't use. 3DS had glasses-free 3D, Nintendo Switch 2 has mouse controls. However, unlike glasses-free 3D, it honestly expects mouse controls to really catch on once Nintendo releases more titles that prove the controls can be fun and very useful, but more on that later. Fast forward to June 4th of 2025, and I arrived home late at night with the system itself. One of the things that really surprised me in the first place was how new the system felt despite looking almost identical. It's not really deja vu, more so the opposite. It's like eating a dish you've eaten for the last decade, except this time it feels brand new. Nintendo honestly really did redesign and rework the entire system from scratch. The Joy-Con 2 feel absolutely incredible to use and hold, despite looking very similar. I don't see these controllers breaking apart like the original Joy-Con did. The sticks themselves feel really good to use and really smooth like butter. And that goes for the Pro Controller as well. The whole system is also much more durable than the original, and honestly might be the most durable system Nintendo's released in quite some time, at least in a decade. I do not remember the Wii U or the original Switch being this durable. It's very hard to break, and I don't see it breaking even among younger players. The UI for Nintendo Switch 2, despite looking very similar to the Nintendo Switch's UI, has so many small tweaks and changes that it does feel brand new. The sound effects do a lot of the heavy lifting, as every sound effect is different now, and they all very much make the system feel different, despite looking very similar. All the small changes from Nintendo Switch 1 to Switch 2, including physical with the system's design to the UI, add up to make a whole new experience. This early in the system's life, it's basically just Mario Kart World and a 60 FPS patch for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and Open World Zelda duology, if you want to call it that. Mario Kart World is really damn good. I do have some gripes with it in terms of design that I think a certain other kart racer coming this fall could unironically outmatch, but that's a topic for another day. I somehow accidentally put 150 hours into this game, with at least 20 of it being just in the title screen itself, but it's dangerously addictive, especially with Knockout Tour, and I do not know why it took 30 years to think of that. The best thing with Mario Kart World is honestly the soundtrack, which I feel like not a lot of people are talking about. There are over, like, at this point, over 100 and over, 340, 350 tracks in the game that are wholly original, which is extremely impressive, and probably will stand next to Clair Obscur as the best soundtrack of the year, which is kind of a shame because nobody's talking about it because it's a kart racer spinoff, but it's really damn good. What do I think of Nintendo Switch 2, and what do I think it could mean for the broader gaming industry? Well, personally, it honestly excites me more than any other system that in quite a while. PS5 didn't give me the excitement that the system has honestly got me. With Nintendo's hard commitment to pushing games on new ways for decades now, the Switch 2's higher processing capabilities will allow for Nintendo's development teams to push gameplay experiences in many new ways, and in an era where budgets are ballooning, and the idea of putting in a high-end console has come into question as people divided. I very much greatly look forward to seeing how Nintendo will push game design to a new direction in the current year where it feels like game design hasn't been pushed or evolved to where it should be at this point. Hopefully the system will showcase how modern design still can evolve in the modern era, and I cannot wait to see what happens next.